Hello there, friends. Today I've come out to the beautiful White Point Garden right here at the Battery, tip of Charleston, and I'll be reading an article from Harvard Business Review's Emotional Intelligence series on happiness. Here is the book. The article today is a brief one, and this will be the first time I'm reading from a topic on happiness. The title of the article is Happiness Isn't the Absence of Negative Feelings, and it's written by a woman named Jennifer Moss. Let me share a little bit about Jennifer and then we'll get into the article. Jennifer Moss is a co-founder and chief communications officer of Plasticity Labs. And this article was adapted from content posted on the HBR website from 2015. So let's hear what Jennifer's article, story, and experience is. Happiness isn't the absence of negative feelings. Happiness feels intolerably elusive for many of us. Like fog, you can see it from afar, dense and full of shape. But upon approach, its particles loosen and suddenly it becomes out of reach, even though it's all around you. We put so much emphasis on the pursuit of happiness, but if you stop to think about it, to pursue is to chase something without a guarantee of ever catching it. Up until about 6 years ago, I was fervently and ineffectively chasing happiness. My husband, Jim, and I were living in San Jose, California, with our 2-year-old son and a second baby on the way. On paper, our life appeared rosy. Still, I couldn't seem to find the joy. I always felt so guilty about my sadness. My problems were embarrassingly first world. Then, in September 2009, the world tilted. Jim fell severely ill. He was diagnosed with swine flu, H1N1, and West Nile virus, then Guillain-Barré syndrome, due to his compromised immune system. Jim never worried about death. I did. When we were told Jim's illness was letting up, that he'd won this round, we were relieved. When we were told Jim might not walk for some time, likely a year, maybe even longer, we were alarmed. We knew this prognosis meant the end of Jim's career as a pro lacrosse player. What we didn't know was how we'd pay the medical bills or how much energy Jim would have for parenting. With 10 weeks to go until the baby arrived, I had very little time to think and reflect. Jim, on the other hand, only had time. He was used to moving at high speeds, both in life and on the field, so minutes passed like hours in the hospital. He was kept busy with physical and occupational therapy, but he was also in need of psychological support. He put out a note to people in his social networks, asking them for reading suggestions that would help him to mentally heal. Suggestions flowed in. Books and audio tapes were delivered bedside with notes about how they'd helped so much after whatever difficulty this person had also experienced but overcame. Jim would spend his days reading motivational books from Tony Robbins and Oprah, or watching TED Talks like Jill Bolte Taylor's My Stroke of Insight, about the impacts of brain trauma. He would analyze spiritual books by Deepak Chopra and the Dalai Lama, or review scientific research papers about happiness and gratitude, written by researchers Martin Seligman, Sean Aker, Sonia Lyubomirsky, and many others. There was a repeated theme throughout all the literature: gratitude. It would weave in and out of all the science, the true stories, and the drivers for success. Jim responded by starting a gratitude journal of his own. He got very thankful. Thankful for the people who changed his sheets, thankful for the family that would bring him hot meals at dinner, thankful for the nurse who would encourage him, and thankful for the extra attention his rehab team would give him in their own time. The team once told Jim that they were only putting in extra time because they knew how grateful he was for their efforts. He asked that I participate in his approach, and because I wanted to help him deal so badly and was seeing how hard it was for him, I tried hard to be in a positive place when I came into his world inside that hospital room. I wasn't always at my best, but after a while, I started to see how rapidly he was getting better. And although our paths weren't congruent, we were making it work. I was coming around. It was shaky and scary, but when Jim walked out of the hospital on crutches, because he stubbornly refused the wheelchair, only 6 weeks after he was rushed by ambulance to the ER, we decided there was something more to this healing than just dumb luck. One of those early books that influenced Jim was Seligman's Flourish. A psychologist and former president of American Psychology Association, Seligman was responsible for defining the term PERMA, the root of many positive psychology research projects around the world. The acronym stands for the 5 elements essential to lasting contentment, PERMA, PERMA. P is positive emotion, E is engagement, R is relationships, M meaning, and A for accomplishment or achievement. And I'll share a quick bit about each of these. P, positive emotion. Peace, gratitude, satisfaction, pleasure, inspiration, hope, curiosity, and love fall into this category of positive emotion. The E is for engagement. Losing ourselves in a task or project provides us with a sense of disappeared time because we are so highly engaged. And my own point here, in addition to disappeared time, I'd also say disappeared ego. The sense of I disappears when you are so engaged in writing task, playing music, being in the zone in a sport. Next, R, relationships. People who have meaningful, positive relationships with others are happier than those who do not. The fourth one, M, meaning. Meaning comes from serving a cause bigger than ourselves, whether it's a religion or a cause that helps humanity in some way. We all need meaning in our lives. And A for accomplishment or achievement. To feel significant life satisfaction, we must strive to better ourselves. So those are the 5 points in the acronym PERMA from Seligman's Flourish. Continuing the article. we slowly brought these 5 tenets back into our lives. Jim returned to Wilfrid Laurier University in Ontario to research neuroscience, and we promptly started up plasticity labs to help teach others what we had learned about the pursuit of happiness. As our lives came to include more empathy, gratitude, and meaning, I stopped feeling sad. So when I see skepticism directed at the positive psychology movement, I take it personally. Do these critics have a problem with gratitude, relationships, meaning, hope? Perhaps part of the problem is that we oversimplify happiness in our pop culture and media, which makes it easy to discard as unproven. As Vanessa Boite, I apologize, I have no idea how to pronounce that name. It is the last name is spelled B-U-O-T-E. Anyway, I think it's Boite. As Vanessa Boite, a postdoctoral fellow in social psychology, put it to me in an email. One of the misconceptions about happiness is that happiness is being cheerful, joyous, and content all the time. Always having a smile on your face. It's not. Being happy and leading rich lives is about taking the good with the bad and learning how to reframe the bad. In fact, in the recent article in the Journal of Experimental Psychology, Emo Diversity and the Emotional Ecosystem by Harvard researcher Jordi Koidbach, found that experiencing a wide range of emotions, both positive and negative, was linked to positive mental and physical well-being. Continuing the article. Not only do we tend to misunderstand what happiness is, we also tend to chase it the wrong way. Sean Aker, the researcher and corporate trainer who wrote the HBR article Positive Intelligence, told me that most people think about happiness the wrong way. The biggest misconception of the happiness industry is that happiness is an end, not a means. We think that if we get what we want, then we'll be happy. But it turns out that our brains actually work in the opposite direction. Boite agrees. We sometimes tend to see being happy as the end goal, but we forget that what's really important is the journey, finding out what makes us the happiness and regularly engaging in those activities to help us lead a more fulfilling life. In other words, we're not happy when we're chasing happiness. We're happiest when we're not thinking about it, when we're just enjoying the present moment because we're lost in a meaningful project, working towards a higher goal, or helping someone who needs us. Healthy positivity doesn't mean cloaking your authentic feelings. Happiness is not the absence of suffering. It's the ability to rebound from it. And happiness is not the same as joy or ecstasy. Happiness includes contentment, well-being, and the emotional flexibility to experience a full range of emotions. At our company, some of us have dealt with anxiety and depression. Some have experienced PTSD. Some of us have witnessed severe mental illness in our families, and some of us have not. We openly share, or we don't. Either way is fine. We support tears in the office if the situation calls for it, both sorrow and laughter. Some people, perhaps looking for a fresh angle, have even argued that happiness is harmful. See, for example, the last 2 articles in this book. And just for your reference, I will share what those last 2 articles are. The titles of those articles, the first one is "The Research We've Ignored About Happiness at Work. It's Not All Good." This article was written by Andre Spicer and Carl Cederstrom. And the second one is "The Happiness Backlash, Tempering the Obsession," written by Alison Beard. So, continuing, some people have even argued that happiness is harmful. But the point of practicing exercises that help increase mental and emotional fitness is not to learn to paste a smile on your face or wish your problems away. It's to learn how to handle stressors with more resilience through training, just as you would train to run a marathon. During my time with Jim in the hospital, I watched him change. It happened in subtle ways at first, but then, all at once, I realized that practicing gratitude and the happiness that comes with it had given me a gift. It gave me back Jim. And if happiness is harmful, then I say, bring it on. What an interesting story and insights shared by Jennifer from her experience. Thank you.